Now, welcome into our Backyard Brothers podcast. As you can see by two of our shirts, we're talking NBA today. But before we do that, I think Cody had a cool experience this last week that he'd like to share with all of us.
Yeah, so it's part of our memory kind of idea that we're doing. I had a good, cool experience. I got to go to MetLife Stadium for the Monday Night Football game of the Seattle Seahawks at the New York Giants, and it's no secret that I'm a Seahawks fan, so I went, supporting my team. And I've told a few people this that there are, in my opinion, two best best scenarios or best games that a fan can go to, two different types. The first one is it's a neck and neck game. It goes into overtime and then your team wins at the very end. And number two is your team just dominates. And for me, it was a second scenario. And so it was a great, absolutely awesome first NFL regular season game for me to go to. MetLife Stadium was beautiful. It was really, really big as well. I didn't realize how massive that stadium was until you're inside of it. And so it was a really massive stadium, and it was just a lot of fun. And it was a heck of a game to witness. Devin Witherspoon just absolutely have a breakout performance, and we know that he won an NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Um, and the 97-yard pick six that he had was closest to where we were, is where he intercepted it, and so it was kind of fun to watch that, and then see him run to the distance on the other side of the league, and also see Julian Love basically catch up to him. It was really fast, really fun and fast to see that. So I had a really fantastic experience, and I think it's although sometimes you can find a good ticket price, sometimes you can't find a good ticket price. But my opinion is it's no matter what the price is, it's worth it to go. And so if anyone else has a chance to go see their team play, um, whatever you can do, I definitely recommend it. It was an awesome experience for me.
I remember watching the game live on TV, and I think I texted you after that pick six, and I just said that must have been real fun to see that live. So, yeah, great experience. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, as you said, there's two ways to go see a game, or the two better ways to go see a game. When your team dominates, it's fun to watch. It's uh, Oh, I don't know if it would have if it's a better atmosphere. I'm sure it would have been a better atmosphere in New York if it was a close game and not half the stadium leave by the middle of the fourth quarter. But still,
For
it's
that,
more than that. Okay. Um,
I would say half the stadium was gone by halfway through the third quarter. So, um, you know,
yeah, it was a really great performance up by that really Seattle defense was really incredible in that game. And so we'll see as we go on throughout the year if everyone does that to the Giants, because so far they have, but um, the Seahawks were really really impressive in that game. So okay, let's jump in. Before I do that, do this. Just set the stage a little bit. This is going to be similar to our NFL previews, in that there's a slide deck. There's and we'll talk about each team, and then talk about the division overall. Uh, NBA season tips off in about 3 weeks, the middle to end of October. And so we're hitting the next 3 weeks talking about two divisions each to try to get that in before the start of the season. Um, so let me get set up here. Come on. Okay, just have to do that in a second. Share screen. This. Yeah. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we are starting with the Central Division in the Eastern Conference, um, with the Chicago Bulls. Let me get rid of this. Get rid of this. No, okay. So, and this is a not official, obviously, but it's my projection, and it's based on a lot of good things on what the starting lineup will be. It's important to show that Lonzo Ball will be missing a second straight year, complete straight year. If you recall, he missed all of last year with an injury. He had a little bit of a setback in the offseason, and he'll miss an entire next year. He has said that he will play again. He's only 25 or whatever he said, 23. I can't remember how old he is. But it's a big setback for the Bulls that they're missing their starting point guard for 2 years in a row. And I don't know if that coincided with last year's finish. The Bulls played in a play-in game. They lost. They did not make it into the final playoffs, which is a real shame considering this roster, this lineup. You see DeMar DeRozan there, Zach LaVine. Those two are really really good players, the two best players in the team. Nikola Vucevic is a really good center as well, stretch center. Patrick Williams at power forward. Alex Caruso made the all defense team last year at point guard. He'll start this year in place of Lonzo Ball. Depth. You can see a couple of additions. Torrey Craig comes over from the Suns, and Javon Carter comes over from the Bucks. In addition, Julian Phillips. Why is this in my way? Can I get rid of that? Okay, there we go. And Julian Phillips is a second round pick out of Tennessee. Those three make up the entire additions to the team. The rest of it, you have Andre Drummond, who's a veteran center, and Kobe White, who's down here at the bottom right. He started a lot of games at starting point guard, but kind of as the season wore on, he kind of came off the bench a lot more. And so projecting him to come off the bench a little bit this year, but he's an important piece in that team as well. The coaching staff. There's more than two assistant coaches, but I just kind of wanted to boil it down to two that I wanted to point out. Anyway, Billy Donovan is their head coach in his fourth season. If you recall, he came from the college ranks where he won 2 national championships for the University of Florida, back to back, 06 and 07. After that, he was the Thunder head coach for 6 years before moving on to the Chicago Bulls. Maurice Cheeks is an assistant coach. He's been a head coach in 3 different stops for the Trailblazers, the 76ers, and the Pistons. So he has a lot of head coaching experience as well. And Damian Cotter, their other assistant coach. So let's start, Dustin. We're going to go just round robin here, but we started with Cody last time. We're going to start with Dustin this time. What are your thoughts on the Bulls?
So the Bulls, you look at this roster, and they like if you didn't look at their record the last few years, you would say that this is a super team. I mean, with DeRozan, LaVine, and Vucevic all on the same team, you should think this is a super team. But they've only won more than 40 games once in the last 5 years, right? In the last 3 years when this team's been together, and so it's kind of a disappointing team that they have great players, all-star players, and really are unable to compete at a high level in the league. And so the East is wide open. The Bulls have the opportunity, if they can kind of gel and get together, to make a run at the Eastern Conference. They have the roster to do it, but for some reason they just haven't been able to. And so I'm hesitant to think positive of this Bulls team because they haven't proved it yet, but they have the caliber to do so, and I hope they can.
Yeah, I think you're right. You look at that starting lineup and you say you have Zach LaVine and you have DeMar DeRozan, and you're finishing ninth in the Eastern Conference. How does that happen? So this is a team that really should be better than where they were last year. it's easy to say, oh yeah, that team's going to finish, second in their division and finish sixth in the conference or whatever it is. But for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. And maybe last year and maybe this year, it's because they're missing their point guard, Lonzo Ball. Whatever you want to think of the drama that happened with the Ball's dad back in, it's undeniable that his kids are really good players, Lamelo and Lonzo, and so missing him is. Alex Caruso is a great defensive player, but he's limited offensively. So, what impact will that have? And also talk about Billy Donovan. He kind of fell short in Oklahoma City a couple of times with an all-star cast of Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant. Fell short in Oklahoma City, and he's done the same thing in Chicago so far. So, is there something to say about Coach Billy Donovan? So.
I think my thought is injuries are always suck. They always suck, but they always happen. And we always obviously can't use injuries as an excuse. But when you have someone who is backing, like Alex Caruso, backing up Lonzo Ball, and he makes the all defense for that, that's pretty impressive. So, in my opinion, I mean, yes, they need a lot of help from Lonzo Ball, but they got someone fit to replace him. And so it's probably more about what you're saying, Dustin, about them just gelling. Something's going on with how they're coming together on the court. And so I think, yeah, if they can figure that out, if they can kind of get some team chemistry going, the roster might actually turn into the record that they need. And so I think it's all about that gelling on the court, really, at this point.
Yeah, I really like Alex Caruso. I think he's capable of being a starting point guard in the league. Obviously, a top defensive player. And there's some of the internet trolls within the NBA world have gone to calling him the bald Mamba. And so it's fun. I think he's a great player. I think he's seriously underrated. He should be a starter, whatever team he is, and he deserves to be a starter on the Bulls, regardless of Lonzo Ball's status, which missing 2 seasons in a row. This is probably going to be a career-ending injury if he can't come back, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Whoops. Keep doing that. To the Cleveland Cavaliers, second team in this division. This is a really good starting lineup as well, and it's the exact same as last year. No changes. And you got Evan Mobley, who made the all defense team as well. He's just in his second year last year. He has a lot of room to grow and looking really good. Jarrett Allen has made an all-star team before. You can see his stats there. 14 points, 10 rebounds a game is pretty dang good. Donovan Mitchell was all NBA last year. He, for as good as he was with the Jazz, he looked better than ever with the Cavaliers last season. And that's a pretty formidable backcourt with Mitchell and Darius Garland, who himself averaged 22 points and 8 assists a game. So that's an impressive backcourt and a pretty good starting lineup. They made a lot of additions to this second unit. Max Strus comes over from the Eastern Conference champion Heat to round out that second unit, along with George Niang from the 76ers, Damian Jones from the Jazz, Ty Jerome from the Warriors, and you bring in Tristan Thompson, who last year was on the street, but he played for 10 years with the Cavaliers, including winning a championship. And so he's now back with the Cavaliers. They draft Imani Bates out of Eastern Michigan in the second round. And then you have some of these other guys. It's important to mention Karis LeVert, who's a great player off the bench. He could be a starter in most places, but he's coming off the bench for Cleveland to kind of give that second unit a really good scoring option. Coach JB Bickerstaff is in his 5th season, believe it or not. I was surprised when I realized that. And he's joined at his head coach, at his assistant coaches by Greg Buckner and Sidney Lowe. Sidney Lowe has been a head coach in the NBA before with the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies. And so there is some good experience there. My turn, I guess, with to lead off with the Cavaliers. I mentioned it in some of that analysis, but Donovan Mitchell just gets better every single year. It seems if he's on this trajectory, he could be an MVP if he continues to take this trajectory off. He was better than better with the Cavaliers than he ever was with the Jazz, and that's saying a lot because he was really really good with the Jazz. Uh, and so having a backcourt with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, that's a better situation than he ever had in Utah to have a backcourt mate there. Obviously, you look at their playoff. We projected. I remember in our playoff preview that the Cavaliers could go far. Instead, they lost in 5 games to the Knicks. And so, what happened to the Cavaliers in that playoff series? It's hard to say, and so they just couldn't stop the Knicks from scoring. And so defense needs to come up, and that's where Evan Mobley is a big addition, or not big addition, but a big player to talk about if he can shut down that paint a little bit better than he did last year. A lot of good additions. Max Strus and George Niang are two really good additions, I think, to this team. Both shoot the ball really well. Both are good defenders, long defenders, and so the Cavaliers have a lot of good in their future this year.
Yeah, main person I was going to talk about is Donovan Mitchell. I mean, why not? Whenever he's on a topic to talk about, we got to talk about him. And so he's definitely by far one of the best players in the league, and he's been playing like that. And it's insane to see him getting better and better. Almost makes me jealous that he didn't play the way he did last season when he was with Utah. But my thoughts is when they get to the playoffs. I mean, the last couple of years they had great records, 51-31, and then 44-38. But they lost all 3 of those games that they had played when they get to the playoffs. And so I think that they have the roster and they have the talent to play great in the season, make it to the playoffs. But then it seems like they choke during the playoffs. And I'm not sure if I'm missing a specific reason, if there was injury or two that may have been the reason why. But I think that for the Cavaliers, they need to look at what's going on when they make it to the playoffs. That way they can make a deeper run at it, or at least try to get to the championship game.
So I think with last year with the trade to bring over Donovan Mitchell, they got rid of a lot of their depth. And so they played last year with fantastic starting 5 and struggled with the depth, and they're able to do great and win, but it really showed in that playoff series with the Knicks. And so now they've brought in Strus, Niang, Jones, which will really round out the bench a lot. And then also Thompson and Rubio, right? That with that leadership. And so I think that they had that year that was good, but they didn't have depth. And now they have that depth to build off of it. And so I expect them to be a top team in the East, and to not have a first round exit.
All right. Moving on to the Detroit Pistons, the 3rd team in this Central Division. Starting lineup's going to look a little bit different because they drafted Ausar Thompson in the top, was he 4th pick, I think, 4th overall. And coming out of high school, Overtime Elite technically is the club he was playing for last year. And so it's going to be an adjustment for Ausar Thompson, but he's really good. He and his brother, who are taking back-to-back picks. We'll talk about his brother in a second too. But the Pistons 2 years ago, they had a big jump in what they were doing, and that's because of this guy right here, Cade Cunningham. He was the Rookie of the Year, I think, right? 2 years ago. The 1st overall pick 2 years ago, and he was fantastic 2 seasons ago. Last year, he only played in something like 14 games because he had a season-ending injury, and the Pistons fell down quite a bit to one of the bottom teams in the league. Cade Cunningham comes back this year, and the Pistons could be pretty good with Jaden Ivey, who is on the all-rookie team. As you can see, his stats were pretty dang good too. Bojan Bogdanovic, and that role as a shooter. 21.6 points per game, 41% from three. That's really good as well, dishing out to him for that 3-point shot. James Wiseman struggled in Golden State. He looked pretty good playing in Detroit, though, as you can see his stats. So this could be a pretty good starting lineup. We'll talk about that in a second. Depth, a couple of changes. Joe Harris comes over from the Nets. Monty Morris, a really good backup point guard, comes over from the Wizards. Marcus Sasser is another first-round pick that they had that they took out of Houston. Really experienced guy. He played 4 years at Houston. You don't see that very often anymore as a first-round pick, but a lot of good experience in college. And then Alec Burks, Isaiah Stewart, Killian Hayes, Marvin Bagley, Jalen Duren. All five were really good contributors last year off the bench. So say what you want, but the Pistons have a chance to be a lot better than they were last year. Speaking of this year, a lot of changes, obviously, in coaching across the league. This is one of them. Monty Williams fired at the Suns for having a first-round exit last year and hired immediately by the Pistons to be their new head coach. And he brings over 2 new guys as well, Stephen Silas, who was the Rockets head coach for a couple of years, and Mark Bryant, who's been an assistant in the NBA for 15 years now. A lot of good experience there.
Starts with me now, I think, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so I think really my take on this is going to be more of a question that we can kind of discuss a little bit here as well. But I'm sorry, give me the name of that rookie again, Russo or Thompson? I mean Thompson.
Alsar Thompson.
Alsar Thompson. Okay, so my question is kind of lying with him. You know, they got a somewhat looking good roster. They got a new head coach who was doing great with the Suns. But my question would be coming to, you know, for a moment comparing to NFL. Sometimes you take a bet on a rookie and you don't know if they're going to be if they're going to be great or not. And so a kid coming straight out of high school, coming straight to the to starting on a NBA team, I wonder, you know, we can see how good he is in his highlights and how good he was with his high school, but you're jumping levels going from high school to NBA. And so my first thought is I expect him to struggle a lot, and this team's probably going to struggle because of that. But I'm kind of curious what you guys' thoughts are. You know, obviously he's really good to be taken so early on. But I can't help but think about that kind of level and talent, that jumping, and so he's going to struggle really a lot. And I'm surprised that they're just putting him straight on the court right away rather than putting him in a G League or whatever it is. So I want that's kind of my thought on this team is I don't know what to expect because of that, but I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that too.
Well, let's make sure we understand. So he played G League last year. That's what he did. He went from high school to the G League. He spent a year in the G League. With overtime elite, right? And so he's been in an NBA system. And so in some ways you could say he's more prepared for NBA than a college player because he's been in a system that uses NBA coaches, players. I mean, he's been on the same team with players who have played in the NBA. You don't get that in college. Right. And so there's a way that you could say he's absolutely more prepared. But to your point, what he has is insane athleticism. And I don't think that his skills are honed yet. And that's going to take, just like almost every other rookie in the NBA, it's going to take a year or two for him to hone his skills down.
Any other thoughts, Dustin, on the Pistons?
Yeah, just to follow that up again, I love the coaching change. It's the opportunity for Monty to try to build it up from the bottom. He has a pretty good roster. I like what they've built around Cade Cunningham. I like what they're putting in there. But that doesn't mean that I have high expectations. If they double their win count from last year, they'll probably still miss the playoffs. So I don't have high expectations, but I hope that they can get to 30 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a little bit more high expectations for them. And that's not saying that I expect them to finish second or third in this division. I expect them to go from fifth to fourth in this division. So it's not a huge jump, but I do like this roster. Cade Cunningham coming back healthy will help that team a lot. Alisar Thompson, as you both have mentioned, he's going to be thrown to the wolves a little bit, but he has such insane athleticism that and you see that a lot with high picks. There a lot of teams are taking players for potential rather than where they are. Most of it, that's where it is. And so you see his stats in college, or at overtime elite. I mean, he scored a lot, he rebounded a lot, but the shooting, especially for a small forward, isn't there. He's 20 high 20 low 30% shooting from 3-point range, and so he has to learn to shoot still. He has insane athleticism to get to the rim, but I think we are talking about an upward trend for the Pistons, but I don't expect it to be a end in a playoff appearance. All right, Indiana Pacers, fourth team in this division. You can see we had Benedict Mathurin, who was an all-rookie player last year, 17 points a game-ish. Tyrese Halliburton was a legitimate all-star. You can see 21 points, 10 assists per game, averaged a double-double. He was fantastic at point guard. Miles Turner and Buddy Hield are the other two returning players. They drafted Jarris Walker in the first round out of Houston, who is a big guy. You can see 6'8", 240. This guy is big and strong. He's going to play a lot at that power forward position. He's maybe still, as far as height goes, a little undersized to play power forward, but he's really strong and that can make up for it. Depth. Bruce Brown comes over from the NBA champion Nuggets. Obi Toppin, who was a top 10 pick for the New York Knicks, never really panned out in New York, and he comes over from them to try to add something to the Pacers. Ben Shepherd, Mojave King, Isaiah Wong, three other rookies. The Pacers had 4 draft picks this year. It's possible that not all 4 of those will play. I wanted to show them here. Ben Shepherd is likely to play, though. He's one of those few guys that come out of college with a great shooting stroke. The guy can fill it up from 3-point range, and so he'll probably get on the court. Jalen Smith, Andrew Nemhard, and Aaron Nesmith, and Jordan Nwora. All 4 of those guys scored really well last year coming off the bench. In fact, Aaron Nesmith was a starter last year. He probably won't be at this year, although depending on what Jarris Walker does, could get on the court a little bit more. Whoops. Rick Carlisle in his second stint for the Pacers. He was the Pacers head coach back in 03 to 07. And he's now in his third season in his new stint with the Pacers. He won an NBA championship with the Dallas Mavericks back in 2011. Jim Boylan is in his first season as an assistant coach. He was the Bulls head coach from 18 to 20. And just for you, Cody, I threw in that he was the University of Utah head coach for a couple of seasons as well.
Yay.
And Gennaro Pargo in his third season as an assistant coach. All right, Dustin.
So I really like the combination of Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. They play great, and Buddy Hield really rounds it out. Again, just like the Pistons, I don't have high expectations for the team, but I think that kind of what they've been able to add with some athleticism, like with Obi Toppin, and some experience with McConnell in there, I think will help round the team out more. I'm interested to see how Mathurin's going to fit into the roster. But again, just got to be able to watch him play and see what he can do, and how he fits in. So I think this is going to be a team that's going to struggle to gel and figure it out for the first half of the season, and then end up winning a few games near the end, but still not good enough to get out of either fourth or fifth.
I think you mean Jarris Walker, right? How he fits in, because Benedict Mathurin was on the team last year.
But... Sorry, yeah. Sorry, wrong rookie.
Right.
Wrong rookie.
Yeah, but I agree. Tyrese Halliburton is a stud. He's a star. Unfortunately, I think he's the only one on the team. And yeah, Miles Turner plays well off of him. Buddy Hield is frustrating from a fan's perspective of the Pacers. This guy, if you remember, he won the Naismith Award in college. He was the best player in college when he played, and you see that potential every now and then, right? He can shoot from three. He can every now and then he'll score 25 points, and then he has a couple of weeks where he averages like 7. So you never know what you're going to get from Buddy Hield sometimes, but it's a team that has the potential to do well. I think this is a team that falls down to the fifth place in the Central Division behind the Pistons, and I don't know if that's gonna necessitate a change at the end of the year, but I just don't have high hopes for the Pacers. I like the Pacers. I hope they prove me wrong, but I just don't think so.
Talking about Buddy Hield, he had an injury last year. Buddy Hield.
Oh, boy.
All right, I'm logging off now. I'm just kidding. I was gonna say, I mean, the fact that they have a coach that was with Utah means they're gonna win the championship, right? No, I'm kidding. No, that means they probably finished 5th. So, I honestly don't know if I have a whole lot more to add to the Pacers than what you guys already added, but I do think they're going to be battling between the Pistons for that 4th spot. But and I think it comes down to the rookies who play. At least my opinion. I was going back to the Pistons with what I was saying, like how they're going to adapt. So I don't really know what else to add, but they need to be able to, I guess, just bring the talent in together better. Perform better along the stretch and try to get at least to 4th. I agree. I don't think they're going to get 3rd or anything, but we'll see if they get 5th.
Okay. Last team in the Central Division is the Milwaukee Bucks, and they have some fun things to talk about. You'll see here. First of all, Giannis Antetokounmpo, All NBA last year, was in the top MVP discussion. 31 points, 12 rebounds a game. You don't get much better than that. And he has just got better every year. It seems like he is a fantastic player. Chris Middleton was hurt a lot of last year. He's been an all-star as well beside Giannis. And so getting him back for a full healthy season is important. Brook Lopez was all defense last year. And was he the defensive player of the year?
No, it was
it was-
JJJ.
It was who? Sorry.
Jaren Jackson Jr.
That's right. Okay. But he was all defense though. 16 points, 3 blocks almost per game. And then we get into the fun stuff. They trade for Damian Lillard a couple of weeks ago, who was an all NBA player himself for the Trailblazers. He wanted out of Portland. Portland has been going through some tough struggles. And so you grab Damian Lillard to pair with Giannis, and that could be an extremely talented. Sometimes you say, okay, how are they going to lose in a game when they have Giannis and Damian Lillard? The thing is, they had to get rid of Drew Holiday. They had to get rid of Grayson Allen in order to do that. That's why you have Pat Connaughton in the starting lineup. He was a great bench player last year. He's going to be in the starting lineup this year because of the lack of other options. Depth-wise, Malik Beasley grabbed from the Lakers. Cameron Payne grabbed from the Suns, who's a great kind of spark plug guy. He signed with the Spurs in the offseason, but the Spurs waived him, and the Bucks just picked him up quickly. Robin Lopez joins his brother Brook. Second time I think they've been together on the same team. So Robin joining them there. Andre Jackson, draft pick from the national champion Connecticut Huskies. And Chris Livingston, another draft pick from Kentucky. And then you have these other guys here. Thanasis Antetokounmpo also joins his brother. You have 2 sets of brothers on the Bucks: Thanasis and Giannis, and Robin and Brook, 2 sets of brothers. And Bobby Portis and Jay Crowder are important to mention as well. The Bucks also changed head coaches because as the top seed last year, they lost in the first round. And so they said goodbye to Coach Bud, and they bring in Adrian Griffin, who has never been a head coach in the NBA. He's been an assistant since 2010, but he is a new head coach to join Vin Baker, who's kept on the staff. This is his 6th season, former Bucks All-Star in his in his NBA career as well. So he's familiar with Milwaukee. And Terry Stotts, who was the head coach of the Trailblazers for 10 years, joins the staff as well. So there's good experience, at least from Terry Stotts' side of things. So for the Bucks, again, I mentioned that you have Giannis and you have Damian Lillard, two of the 10 players who, or 15 players who were all NBA last year on the same team. That's going to be fun to watch as long as both can stay healthy. Damian Lillard, but both of these guys are future Hall of Famers, and they're playing on the same team. It's going to be fun. The depth leaves a little bit to be desired, just because they had to get rid of a few players. But you bring in Malik Beasley and Cameron Payne. You draft some players, and you still have Jay Crowder. You still have Bobby Portis. I think this is, to me, between the Cavaliers and the Bucks, going down to who's going to win that Central Division. I think the Bucks get that edge.
So my first thought is I was surprised. I did not know that they fired their coach. So I'm surprised that happened. He won the championship 2 years ago, didn't he? And so I don't know if it's, I guess I don't really know exactly what the expectations of coaches are in the NBA and how it differs from the NFL. But I know in the NFL, if you win the Super Bowl, you're probably going to be good for a few years at least. And so I'm surprised that they fired him just because he lost the first round. So that surprises me. And so the fact there's a new head coach coming in with no head coaching experience makes me wonder a little bit how this is going to go. But when you have Giannis and Damian Lillard on the same team, you're probably going to be safe with winning first, if not second. So I expect a lot because of those two players, but I have a lot of question marks surrounding that coaching change and why they did that and then what's going to happen.
Yeah, I was upset when they fired Bud. It's interesting because they lost that first round to the Heat, but then the Heat ended up in the finals, right? And so it's I don't agree with that change, but that's the nature of the business, unfortunately. Follow up on this roster, I love that their bench, they still have Crowder and Portis, who are they're just both just dogs, and they provide a lot of hustle and a lot of experience there, and so I think that their bench will probably be fine. I'm excited to watch what Lillard can do, especially with his former coach in Stotts helping out there, and so I think this is a team that everyone has high expectations for, and it's going to be very exciting to watch.
Yeah. I'm going to share this screen real quick. I know we have about 30 seconds, but this is where we picked. Cody and I both have the Bucks finishing first. Dustin has the Cavs. Bulls are in third for all of us, and then we kind of shift on the Pacers and Pistons in fourth and fifth. So pretty similar across the board. When we come back, because we're going to be kicked off in a second, we'll see if there's any talk about how these teams are stacking up. So see you in just a bit.